controlling. Samam, equal. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The title of the chapter is that the Pandavas retire timely. The Supreme Unborn, Lord Sri Krishna, calls the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies, and thus he relieved the burden of the world. This action was like picking out a thorn with a thorn, though both are the same to the controller. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur suggests that the rishis like Shonaka and others who were hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami at Naimishranya were not happy to hear about the Yadus dying in the madness of intoxication. To give them relief from this mental agony, Sutta Goswami assured them that the Lord calls the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies by which they had to take away the burden of the world. The Lord and his eternal associates appeared on earth to help the administrative demigods in eradicating the burden of the world. He therefore called for some of the confidential demigods to appear in the Yadu family and serve him in his great mission. After the mission was fulfilled, the demigods, by the will of the Lord, relinquished their corporeal bodies by fighting amongst themselves in the madness of intoxication. The demigods are accustomed to drinking the soma rasa beverage, and therefore the drinking of wine and intoxication are not unknown to them. Sometimes they were put into trouble for indulging in intoxication. Once the sons of Kuvera fell in the wrath of Narada for being intoxicated, but afterwards they regained their original forms by the grace of the Lord Sri Krishna. We shall find this story in the 10th canto. For the Supreme Lord, both the Asuras and demigods are equal, but the demigods are obedient to the Lord, whereas the Asuras are not. Therefore, the example of picking out a thorn by another thorn is quite befitting. One thorn, which causes pinpricks on the leg of the Lord, is certainly disturbing to the Lord, and the other thorn, which takes out the disturbing element, certainly gives service to the Lord. So though every living being is a part and parcel of the Lord, still one who is a pinprick to the Lord is called an asura, and one who is a voluntary servitor of the Lord is called a devata, or demigod. In the material world, the devatas and asuras are always contending, and the devatas are always saved from the hands of the asuras by the Lord. Both of them are under the control of the Lord. The world is full of two kinds of living beings, and the Lord's mission is always to protect the devatas and destroy the asuras whenever there is such a need in the world, and to do good to both of them. End of purport. I'll read the verse again. Do you have an electronic board in the room? No. So you're all reading on your mobiles. I think absolutely everyone is reading on their mobile. And you're not reading on your mobile. Why not?
You space it out.
He's spaced out, okay. It makes it a little difficult sometimes. I find that we put this code on the books. It's a kind of a code which is a little echoey. It's very echoey, the microphone. The way I moved it. Is it possible to turn down that room? Disturbing a little bit. Make it a little bit crisper. So it's very, sometimes people, they just want to read the book online, you know. They just take a picture. They don't even buy the book. They just take a picture. I'll look it up online. I'll read it online or something. Anyway, it's nice. Reading the book is far better. Even psychologically, scientifically, it's said that reading a book has many times more benefit health-wise, even absorption-wise, absorbing the material. We're so dependent on electronic appliances now. These sages did not have any electronic appliances of the type we have, at least. But they completely absorbed every word just by listening to it once. Anyway, the subject of the day is, you could say there's historical subject matter here, there's relationship subject matter here, there's philosophical subject matter here, and there is significant subject matter here in terms of the mission of the Lord. The mission of the Lord is quite simple. The Bhagavad Gita emphasizes this principle, Paritranaya Sadhanam Vinashaya Dushkitana, that Krishna himself says, I come in this world to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, and to establish religious principles, which is another subject. But this annihilation of the demons is not just, as if they're not his enemies. He has no enemies. He's Samoham Sarvabhuti. He's equal to all. But it's a reciprocal thing. People think that, Krishna's killing demons is very nasty or something. Maybe they don't mind it too much if they think also that they're demons. But in principle, people's idea of violence is not religion, it's not spiritual. And not understanding the nature of the soul, because people tend to identify themselves with the body. The soul is not a demon or a devotee, yes. Not a demon, just assumed, or say assumed by the arrangement of the Lord and by their desire, a demoniac or inimical relationship with the Lord. And the Lord is simply reciprocating that inimical approach of the jiva. And various times, places and circumstances, the Lord will reciprocate in different ways according to the need. And in this particular age, it's not so much killing the physical or corporeal form of the material body, but it's more killing the mentality which goes behind it, or goes behind a demoniac or an inimical to Godhead, that is. Demoniac means inimical to God. It's defined materially speaking, I suppose, by one's direct behavior. And that will be interpretable according to the particular nature of the society that one is in. Certain people consider meat-eating demoniac and certain don't. Or intoxication, or whatever it may be. Or, we can't speak about certain things, but in the past, certain activities which are now accepted as perfectly fine were previously considered not fine. They were considered to be sinful, and some people may still do so. So it changes. These are relative understandings, but they're not absolute understandings of why the Lord appears. He's not just appearing to establish a particular system of morality, which, generally speaking, in religion or even in human society, there are certain codes of morality which vary from one culture to another, one religion to another, one age to another. The codes of morality change considerably, isn't it? Whether it's in relationship to sexual misbehavior or implementation, for instance, of laws, punishments in society and so on. They come regularly changing and they vary from culture to culture, or even activities which are defined as being criminal vary from society to culture, religion to religion and so on. So these are not absolute understandings of asuric mentality. They may be related, and often are, but not necessarily. People who are defined as pious, religious people, in one sense, are often engaged in nothing but sinful activity, practically speaking. The real sinful activity is to identify oneself with the body as a self. That's the greatest sin, Bhagavatam says, the greatest sin that exists is to identify oneself as being the body. Now that isn't usually considered a sin at all, because everyone's looking at it from a material perspective. So to accommodate those who have material perspectives only, or partially, there are so many, we could say, rules and regulations pertaining pertaining to the material interaction of the soul with the material world. Because they're not above it, they haven't realized their spiritual identities. The soul can never be killed. The soul is eternal. So when the soul is under this illusion of identification, whether they're demigods or demons, and obviously some of the demigods have realization, but the majority do not. When we say demigods, we're not referring to Ganesh and other great demigods, Chandra and so on. We're referring to persons residing in that realm, heavenly realms. There are hundreds of millions. How many millions? Well, they have regulated, they have specific duties there. How many of the demigods is it? 33 million? 33 million. Who have specific duties. Then there are countless living entities living in that plane of existence. And even those who have designated duties to serve the Lord in his universal management, vast majority are materially inclined. They're not transcendental to the identification with the post or the body they have or the environment they live in. So they're still conditioned, but they're consciously aware that they're working on behalf of God. And they're doing their duty, they should be, properly. So here in this, the demons, they may have knowledge of God. They may have so many material facilities and expert at so many things, even expert at reciting the Vedas, but they are inimical towards God. They're demons. They're envious of God. Even though they have, knowledge, their intelligence is bewildered in a sense, stolen by illusion. Because they don't know the source of the Vedas. They don't know here Krishna. Everything is organized as Vedic. Everything is ultimately controlled and guided by the Lord. So they're also being guided. And because they're inimical to the Lord, and the demigods are favorable to the Lord, generally, although there sometimes, as Prabhupada mentions here in the case of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, they became inimical. They became inimical to the Lord. So in that case, the Lord taught them a lesson. He taught them a lesson. The whole material world is meant for that purpose, to rectify this forgetfulness. Forgetfulness, the real sin is to forget Krishna and identify oneself separately from Krishna. So to teach that lesson and to awaken our remembrance. I mean, we all have experienced in our short lives that sometimes we know we've done something which is not, at least in terms of Krishna consciousness, is not favorable. And if you're a little bit Krishna conscious, you'll feel regretful, repentant, or feel bad about it. And, what do we do? I mean, what can we do? Well, or if we're in great difficulty, for instance, another angle of this, we take shelter of Krishna. The demigods sometimes get in difficulty. In the case Nalakuvara Manigriva, because ultimately they didn't take shelter of Krishna necessarily immediately, but eventually they did. So Krishna now, through the agency of Narada Muni, whose devotees chastised them, taught them a lesson, eventually they got delivered. They were blessed. They had the association of pure devotee. Very fortunate. Curses or blessings are all the same in the absolute sense, although they appear different. Krishna is equal to all. Because the purpose of Krishna is to deliver the conditioned soul, to remind him of his relationship with him. This is real religion. Religion is to remind us, not just theoretically, but to actually reinstate us in that situation of relationship with Krishna. Unfortunately, generally misses the point and causes us to remain within the material universe. So the other side here we have um, the historical sector or the historical factor of the demigods here now. This is a very mystical and bewildering pastime of the departure of the Yadu dynasty. It's partially understood and partially misunderstood, even from the, let's say, the perspective of one who's somewhere in this world, or conditioned partially or fully conditioned. That's whatever fully conditioned is generally totally misunderstood. Partially conditioned or aspiring to come to Krishna consciousness, maybe some degree is understood. So we'll try to talk a little bit from that angle on the history. We generally hear that the Yadava dynasty is primarily composed of demigods who expanded themselves to participate or to serve the Lord in his Leela, in his particularly in Dwarka. And they took birth as members of the Yadu dynasty, and that's not wrong, but it's not complete. We'll backtrack a little bit. We'll backtrack or foretrack? We'll backtrack, I think, backtracking. You may remember that there's a pastime in the Krishna book of the solar eclipse in Kurukshetra, where the Yadavas and many other dynasties attended that event in Kurukshetra. And they came, even the residents of Braj, expanded forms, went to Kurukshetra. And so did the Yadavas, most of them, went to Kurukshetra for the solar eclipse. While they were at the solar eclipse, not that pastime we're not going to discuss, but while they were there, something generally unknown to, maybe known to you, but it's generally unknown, took place, is that the personality of Kali also attended. The personality of Kali attended that assembly in Kurukshetra and approached Krishna confidentially, without anyone else's knowledge. He wasn't known to be there by others, but he was there, and he approached Krishna, and he asked Krishna if he would, what's happening? He said, because you're here in the world, my age is supposed to have begun. Because you're here, then I can't do my duty to you. I'm unemployed. So please be merciful. You've given me this duty to influence this age, but there's nothing I can do because you're on the planet. And as long as your family are on the planet, there's nothing I can do either. And as long as their descendants basically are on the planet, there's nothing I can do. They're all so pious. And so Krishna then said, oh yes, you are right. So then Krishna thought, what can I do to create a dharma, a religion? Krishna was thinking, what can I do to create a religion to enable Kali to do his duty? It's all orchestrated by Godhead. There's not some competitor to God. So then Krishna thought, yes. So then he created this whole pastime of the departure of the Yadu dynasty. But he created it in such a way that people will become faithless. Isn't it? I mean, they could have departed in what seemed to be a very religiously, spiritually blissful, way. But instead they went to Kurukshetra and, that's another aspect, the reeds and this and that, cursing of the Yadu dynasty, all orchestrated by the Lord. They would be, what on earth are the children of the Yadu dynasty going to the sages and, saying such a thing? It's so unbecoming, isn't it? That they dress up Samba as if she's a pregnant girl, and them, is it going to be a boy or a girl? Joking with the sages is just so unbecoming. All orchestrated by Godhead. But then the curse, everything was to fulfill this plan of the Lord. And so they go to Prabhakshetra, all orchestrated by the Lord, and then they pilgrimage or whatever. And then they get drunk, basically, from the material angle. On some rice wine or something. And then they start fighting with each other to such an extent, they get so angry and they kill each other. And almost every one of them was killed. End of the Yadu dynasty. Well, it wasn't the end of the Yadu dynasty. What happened was, the demigods, they expanded into the past, but the actual Yadu dynasty was not touched at all. They were the demigod portions. This is inconceivable from the materialistic perspective, that when we look at someone, we think that's you, because we're identifying on the external perspective of how we see people. But within each one of those yadavas are the eternal associates of the Lord, as well as the expansive forms of the demigods. So that portion of the Yadu dynasty personalities, we could say individuals, we see many times 2, 3 persons appearing as one in our perspective. We can't imagine. There's nothing difficult about this. But it's difficult for us to see. I mean, what example can we give? You see a car going by. It's not a very good one, but it might help. You see a car going by, there's 4 people in the car, but all you see is the car. You see one car. But there are 4 people in that car. You can only see the car, you can't see anybody. And you think, cars going by. That's what you see. A car, BMW or, Volkswagen or whatever it is, Toyota. But there are 4 people there. So there's not probably a very good example. It just gives an idea, that's all. For a child doesn't know that there's 4 people in the car. Just a car going by. One car. Black car, white car, green car. They're all different. But inside that there may be many different influences inside. And we see that. We drive around, turn left, the back seat driver, turn right, turn left. And the passenger fast asleep. And the driver, they're all different. So within the same form, that can happen. We can't see that. And we can't conceive of how that is there. It's association on the subtle platform, which we can't perceive, practically speaking. To speak of the spiritual platform, utilizing a particular situation or a particular apparent form. So those apparent forms may have been, removed at Prabhakshetra, but the actual part and parcel, the actual associates of Lord returned to Dwarka in a apricot, unmanifested form, and continued. Unmanifest to the world which we're in. And this way people think, they were just ordinary like everybody else, and they killed each other and they died on the field of Prabhakshetra. And then Krishna did the same thing. People think he got shot, in the heel by some hunter or whatever it may be. Some stupid thing. Whatever, not stupid, but incomplete. He wasn't killed by the hunter at all, but from the external perspective. So then he left a material body behind and what happened. And Vishnu Chakravarti describes how it's absolutely impossible for a hunter who was hunting deer to be in the vicinity of Prabhakshetra with millions and millions of Yadavas. They've just been killing each other and smashing each other to death. That a deer would be wandering around there in Prabhakshetra. If you know anything about deer, they're the most scared creatures on the planet, practically. So it's all orchestrated by the Lord. There's internal, external, but externally it appears that he was shot in the heel by a hunter, with the last piece of that metal ball was the head of the arrow. So this is all orchestrated by the Lord in this way. To fulfill the design, all the demigods went back, or re-entered their actual situations in the spirit, in the heavenly planets. You can imagine if they all left the heavenly planets, there would be none left up there. So it wasn't like they expanded them. They also, by the grace of the Lord, had the capacity to expand under certain circumstances. This is one. Anyway, these mysterious, let's say, interactions or pastimes of the Lord go on, and unknown to people in general. So for people in general, then, some kind of religious, although in Kali Yuga it's very diminished, diluted, ineffective in most cases. Naimittika Dharma in Kali Yuga is very, not very sound. It's full of materialistic manipulation and motivation and influence in general. So it doesn't have a very elevating effect. It's something better than nothing, I could say. But in general, it's not very beneficial. It's Dharma Pojita Kutiputra. It's considered in the realm of mostly cheating religion, emphasizing the goal is to go to heaven or to get liberation. These are cheating without understanding the actual purpose of religion. Is to re-establish or to reawaken our loving relationship, devotional relationship with God. God is not, He is an order supplier. He is a reciprocator, He's an overseer, He's a permitter, He's all these things, a creator, and so on and so forth. All these things are there, but they're in relationship to the material world. But to understand our relationship with Him on the transcendental platform, that's the real purpose of religion, and not just within the realm of the material. It starts there, but that's not the objective. If that is not, and whole Bhagavatam is being developed on this principle, where Vyasadeva has not sufficiently emphasized the Sanatana Dharma, or the ultimate religious principle of the soul's eternal rasa relationship with Krishna. He's not been sufficiently, and hardly anyone picks up on it. So Bhagavatam is specifically directed towards that. It's not, the interest of Bhagavatam is not to facilitate mundane dharma, naimittika dharma. It doesn't reject it entirely, of course, because it's a necessity for conditioned souls, but it primarily emphasizes, entirely emphasizes the goal, which is our eternal relationship with Krishna. And certainly doesn't emphasize artha or kama, or even moksha. In the eyes of most people, moksha means simply liberation, and not necessarily a relationship with Krishna. So it doesn't emphasize that. Whereas Naimittika Dharma may mention pure devotion, but as a sideline practically. And the most of the emphasis is on living or regulating practice within this material world to come to a platform of goodness or beyond Brahman or something. But it hardly mentions bhakti as the ultimate objective of existence. And this is Krishna's purpose through this Srimad Bhagavatam, and his whole purpose of coming is to protect, not just to protect people who are materially pious or religious, but to protect the devotees so they don't fall into the trap of compromised or mixed devotional service. They come to pure devotional service, free devotees, Anyabilasitasham and Jnanakamajanavitam. Free of the desire for material returns or liberation or knowledge or any kind of separate thing other than pure devotional service. Mixed motivations, pride, envy, anger, illusions. which affect everyone. Even aspiring devotees are affected by these inimical attitudes or perceptions of others and so on, or themselves. So Krishna wants to protect us from that in various ways, and that's a subject unto itself which time doesn't allow to even attempt to enter into. But at least we can try to hear the Bhagavatam from the right source, and this can help purify our hearts. It should be accompanied, from the right source, it has to be accompanied by the necessary. As a sick person receives medicine from the physician or doctor, he also has to follow a certain style or life behavior. Don't do this, don't do that, and so on. Don't eat certain things. So if we has to be accompanied by behavior, not just knowledge. And not even just taking the medicine directly, but other, like we follow regulated principles and various daily schedules, medicines chanting the holy name, but we also has to be based upon, like you get medicine before meal, 2 tablets each time, 3 times a day, you don't take them all at once. You have to do it according to a prescription. So there's a prescription that goes along with the medicine. If we want the full effect of the medicine, it would take a long time otherwise. So the prescription is there. It includes association, so on and so forth, to facilitate the effect of the medicine. So this is the Lord's mercy He's given. He wants to protect us, the association of devotees, and His constant reminders, reminding us that this is favorable, this is unfavorable, and so on. This is protection. Sometimes when things don't work, we think, what's Krishna doing to me? But that's actually His protection to us. Because if they worked, we'd carry on doing that nonsense. Say we do something which is not favorable to Krishna consciousness, no one else is looking, and kind of you feel a bit uncomfortable about it, but still, you get away with it. And then you don't get away with it. Something happens and it backfires or whatever, and, oh no. The devotee will see this as Krishna's mercy, that He's trying to deliver me from this unfavorable tendency or behavior. And if we're not so surrendered, we may not see it like that. And that's not just on activities, it's on our attitude or our perception and our conceptions and so on, which are still self-centered. So Krishna wants to remove that self-centeredness in our hearts. And so we become conscious or seeing that we're living for His pleasure, not for our own. Not that He is living for our pleasure, but we exist for His pleasure. We tend to think God is there to make me feel good. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, why am I not feeling happy? I'm worshipping the deity, why am I not feeling happy? We sometimes think like the reason we're not feeling happy is we're thinking of, that should be almost my privilege, my rights. It's not a mechanical thing. Love is not mechanical. Krishna wants love, but He doesn't just want things done. The things done, the only purpose of them is to try to evoke actual loving sentiments within our heart, not just to get things done. But anyway, sometimes it's like that. So, Hare Krishna, we gotta go, we gotta move on. We're going to, I believe, some of you are coming maybe, we're going to send you to Coventry. You know this statement, sending to Coventry? Have you heard it before? Have you heard it? Oh, it's way out of date. When you want to get rid of somebody, you send them to Coventry. Don't ask me the history, I can't remember even if I ever knew it. But it's a saying, send them, just get rid of them, send them to Coventry, we used to say. So we're sending you to Coventry today, the land of no return. Okay? You ready to go to Coventry? Who's going to Coventry? You're going. Anyone else coming with us to Coventry? You're not coming. You're not coming on Sankirtan today? No? No?
We are going for fundraising for Radhayatra Maharaj.
You're going for fundraising?
Door to door.
Door to door? Wow, they're going fundraising.
A big team going.
Hmm?
There's a big team, around 50, 60 devotees, children.
Where? What? Going fundraising? Fundraising?
Invite everybody for Radhayatra and then they ask for some donations for the Prashadam for Radhayatra.
They're going door to door, 56 of them, advertising Ratha and what was the other one?
They invite them for Radhayatra and ask for some donations as well. So
Ask them for donations for Ratha
2 hours to 2.5 hours.
For Ratha Well, it's always coming up soon, isn't it? Oh, that's nice. So you're also doing Sankirtan, but you're going door to door, inviting everyone to the most important festival of the year, Ratha Wonderful. Very nice, I hope. And some are going to Coventry, I've heard. Is that right?
Either this or that.
Either this or that. Hopefully they're both made this or that, and both for the same purpose. So they're both. And of course, they're both favourable. Good. Hare Krishna. I better finish there because we have a lot to do before we go. We're leaving at 10 o'clock. That's what I'm told. 10 o'clock, okay? 10 o'clock. Pardon? No, you just told me 10 o'clock just now. Pardon? No, I just personally asked him just before the class. He said he wants to leave at 10. Yeah, I said, aren't we going later with Ekavan? He said, no, he's leaving at 10. Some of you may have been here when he said it. Oh, okay, well, I better get to find out because my whole schedule is based on what he tells me.